Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verses 22 to 26, please.
Yehi samsparshaja bhogaha dukkhayonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaha shaknoti haiva yasodhum praksharira vimokshanat Kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayuktasya sukhi naraha yontas sukhontara ramaha tathantar jyotirevayah sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodhigacchati Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishayah Kshina Kalmashaha Chinnadvaidhayatatmanaha Sarvabhutahite rataha Kama Krodha Viyuktanam Yatinam Yatachetasam Abhito Brahma Nirvanam Vartate Viditatmanam.
The path to perfection starts with a yogi. Yogi is one who has understood the value of following this path to seek and find the truth. The opposite would be the bhogis. Bhogis are those who find this world enchanting and the various attractions of the world keep them enmeshed, entangled in samsara, what we call samsara. Samsara means literal meaning of samsara is entanglement. To be enmeshed, to be caught, to be lost in a world of material objects, emotions, and thoughts. See, if you sum it all up, what are our experiences in the world? It's simply material objects, emotions, and thoughts. Nothing more. So these are the main attractions in the world. So when you find these objects, emotions, and thoughts of great importance in your life, you would spend all your time courting the world. But like we said, here is a person who is different only because he or she finds the necessity to know the meaning and purpose of life. See, there are three transactions in life which you could call the traffic of life. And this happens throughout your life. The moment you wake up in the morning, or from birth to death, from morning till night, you start contacting the world, meaning the eyes receive sights, the ears receive sounds, nose smell, tongue taste, skin touch. These are the only ways you could call them gateways, through which the world can enter you. Stimuli from the world enter your physical body through these gates. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. There's no sixth. And once these stimuli enter you, there is a reaction that takes place within your personality, that is the mind and intellect. So what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, there is a reaction. And once the reaction is complete, the same body sends out responses into the world, back into the world. This is the traffic of life. Receipt, reaction, response. It's very much like a factory. You know, in a factory, you feed raw material in one end. The raw material will be processed by the machinery in the factory, and you get finished products. Now, if you want good products, what must you do? Very simple. Ensure first that the raw material is of a good quality. That's the first thing to do. And then, that doesn't take care of everything. That doesn't take care of the end product. You will have to ensure that the machinery is tuned in, tuned up, well maintained to process the raw material. So if the machinery is not tuned in, not well maintained, even if you feed the best of raw material, it will not produce the right quality in the end product. So, raw material is ensured, machinery is tuned in, and even after the products come out, a good manufacturer will not take it for granted. What does he do? Quality control. You got to quality control the end product. Then you can be assured of real quality. Same thing is happening from morning till night, from birth to death, in every individual. Ask yourself, what sort of raw material are you taking in? So you want a good life. If anybody wants a good life, it's your responsibility to ensure that the whole process is taken care of. So if you are taking in negative raw material, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? All the time, if you're interested in negative thoughts, feelings from the world. See, I don't know if it's here common. I'm sure in somewhere it is. In the world, especially America, one of the biggest shows, biggest following in America. Does anybody know what show that is? Told you, you will not learn Vedanta. You can't learn Bhagavad Gita. You don't know what's happening in the world. Have you heard of the Kardashians? Nobody's heard. Yes, you've heard. Okay. Some of you. There's a chance for you learning Bhagavad Gita. Others, you will have to come up to that level. You must know who the Kardashians are. Some family in the US are followed. What do they do? What they don't do? What they wear? What they don't wear? Who is their friend? Are they together? Have they split up? It is a craze. Millions of people watch television show. The millions follow. It's still such a craze that at one time, a few years ago, they took off the program, took it off the television, because people were spending so much time watching it. They called it the Kardashian cleanse, just to cleanse them of that impact, just to keep them off this information. Now, how are we concerned? What are they doing? Okay, for you, Kardashian is not important. Neighbor, what is he doing? You know, we see one car comes. Correct whatever, 10 o'clock it will come. And then for a few hours it's there, then it goes away. How are you concerned when the car comes, when the car goes, who's coming, who's not coming? No, no, I'm not bothered. Why should we talk? Huh? You have spoken everything. And at the end of it, Namakenama, vitidla. There is no vitidla. You want to talk about it, you enjoy. No, we are only discussing. We are not even careful what raw material we are taking in. Now, why are we recommending first thing in the morning, spend half an hour, 45 minutes, first thing in the morning? In fact, we have not covered that really. Hopefully, today we'll see some of it. See, there are 3 thought textures. Every human is constituted of 3 gunas. Gunas, qualities, thought textures. So you can say A, B, C. Top class, mediocre, low. The terms that are used for these qualities or gunas are sattva, rajas, tamas. I'll put it up on the screen for you. 3 gunas or qualities. They are mental temperaments. Just as you would judge a piece of cloth by the feel. You say this is a smooth cloth or a rough cloth by the texture. You can judge the cloth. Similarly, by your thought textures, temperaments, qualities, gunas, you know what sort of a person you are. You remember we've been talking about that graph of self-development from 0 to 100. You've got to imagine. Imagine a person is at 0 state where you're not at all developed. And then you have something called the perfect state. Now, we don't understand what is that state of perfection, though it is given out in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, let's at least accommodate the thought that there is such a thing as human perfection, that every human is heir to that state, in fact, consciously or unconsciously, directly or indirectly, we are all trying to get to that state. Now, all that we are trying to do here in a classroom like this, or with the study of the Bhagavad Gita, is to set the direction. So you may want to get there, but you're going the opposite direction, so you'll never get there. Now, how do you do that? You will need to get basic knowledge. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to cover voluminous texts. But what has been offered, I did start the other day, but I didn't complete it. I did talk about the material that is available. So the first book was The Fall of the Human Intellect. The second book is The Holocaust of Attachment. Because once you know the value of your intellect, the second problem you have to deal with is your mind. And the mind can create havoc. So, what does it do? In fact, when Swamiji first released the book, there were calls, especially from Europe, how can you use the word Holocaust? It's a terrible word to use. But if you look up the dictionary, it talks about the meaning of Holocaust is mass destruction. That's all it means. So, this attachment that people have is causing mass destruction of peace. So what is prevalent in the world, rampant in the world, is conflict, hatred, jealousy, all sorts of negative feelings and actions going on in the world. Nobody knows how to control it. So we've got to get back to the individuals and gain this knowledge by which you can control your own personality and thereby help others. First, you have to do it yourself. So, that's the next book. The third book that is recommended is Governing Business and Relationships, because these are your immediate duties. You have to work. You have to conduct your business or your profession, whatever that is. How do you function in your workplaces? governing your business or profession or work, and relationships, both at work and at home. So unless you get all this together, you won't be available. You are not prepared to take on the mainstream, which is Vedanta treatise, the eternities. So that is the course of study. I'm mentioning this because if anybody is interested and you want to get started, first thing in the morning, before 6 a.m., these are the 4 books, and the qualities that I was talking about, I'll explain them briefly, because that's not the scope of our discussion, but for the benefit of you all. Why do we recommend first thing in the morning? Because of these 3 gunas, sattva is the finest, where your thoughts are mature, equanimous, contemplative. You are creative. The thoughts are highly refined. That is the quality of sattva. Calm, composed, equanimous, mature, that state of mind is called sattva, A class, highest. When that falls, when sattva falls, it's your desires that take over your personality. Everybody has desires. So these desires take over your personality, and then you function with desires where you may be dynamic, you may be proactive, but with a lot of stress, strain, worry, anxiety, and a whole lot of negative emotions. So it's like driving a beautiful limousine with the brakes on. So what are you doing? You're burning yourself out. You're active, you're an achiever, you're dynamic, all that is happening, but something in you is burning out. What is burning out? It's the desire that's eating you up. You don't realize that. That is rajas. In fact, in the world, if you find activity going on, all the dynamism in the world, you can sum it up to rajas. Because there's a lot of achievement, but there is equal amount or more stress. That's why people can't function after a certain age, because they've burnt themselves out. They've no energy left. And in the same Upanishads, in our Upanishads, they say, may you live 100 years. May your limbs wax strong. It's an invocation before the Upanishad. It only means that we are capable of being active till the last day of our lives. But that doesn't happen. We slow down. After 40s, everybody is slowing down. The energy you had as a teenager is not the energy you have later in life. Why? You're tired. You're exhausted. It's a mental state, because there's so much of worry and anxiety on a daily basis. How much can your personality take it? That is rajas. Rajas burns you out. It's lower than sattva. The lowest quality is tamas. Tamas I don't have to explain. Happy, lazy, lethargic, easy, I don't care attitude. Very familiar with that quality. You want to know tamas? Go to somebody's house on Sunday. You want to be horizontal. Don't want to come to vertical position. Bed tea, bed coffee, everything in bed. Then you will be permanently in bed. Later life. Tamas. You don't want to act. You're against. Don't put the light. Draw the curtains. Light should not come and fall on your face. That sort of aversion to activity. Tamas. Tamas is when you're lazy, lethargic, heedless. Heedless of consequences. Careless. Reckless. What is that quality that makes you act? It is that heedlessness, recklessness. You take on things that could hurt you, could destroy you. See, we talk about drugs, we talk about alcoholism, we talk about gambling or smoking. What makes a human do things that is self-destructive? He knows it is killing him, but yet he does it. What is that quality? Tamas. So these are the three qualities. Now the truth is, every human is a necessary combination of all three. Nobody is free, except a self-realized soul. Guna atita. He has gone beyond gunas. So until you get to the state of perfection, everyone is a necessary combination of all three. Now the question is, when we talked about that graph, where are you on that graph? Means, how much of sattva do you have? How much of rajas? How much of tamas? This is why, because the combinations in each person is different, the percentage, each human is different and distinct from the other. Simply these qualities. So what are we suggesting here? Study. It's not to become scholars, but when you take on these values and study it first thing in the morning. Now the strange truth is, for whatever reason, before 6 a.m., whatever sattva content you have surfaces. This is a law, natural law. I can't change it, I cannot explain it. Once the sun is up, everyone is prone to act. That's why if you want to sleep in, you've had a late night and you want to sleep in, you draw the curtains. You don't want the light to come in because you naturally move to action. So when it's dark, you can sleep. But the moment light strikes you, you're awake. This is a natural law. So rajas starts functioning the moment the sun rises from 6 a.m. right up to sundown, 6 p.m., all through. And the peak of activity is at 12 noon. It rises from 6 right up to 12 noon, and then it slowly starts coming down. Even if you go to an office in the afternoon, they say, no, why don't you come tomorrow morning? Because he's slowing down, he's winding up. He doesn't want to start an activity in the afternoon and delay him. So the peak is noon, and then slowly activities come down, and after sundown starts all the tamasic activities. Dinner, dance, gambling, Las Vegas. Have you heard of Las Vegas? What am I going to do with you all? Las Vegas, you don't know how do I explain that? It's the opposite of Tirupati, Sabrimala, Guruvayur, opposite. The one end and that is the other end. There also they worship in a different form. All the activities start only in the night. It is dead during the day. Nobody is there in the day. It starts. And all sorts of stories you hear. People meet there for the night and they get married. They don't know who they've married. First thing in the morning they wake up, or I can't say first thing in the morning, whenever they wake up, they realize they are married. That is the level of tamas there. It is something, it's a wonderful thing. You can't understand what's going on there. But there are people who live that life. There's a whole place that is thriving on the world's tamas. The whole business there. Tamasic business. It's going on. So, what we do, see, you may say, how do you prove it? Will anybody invite you? We are having a party. Oh, when is it? Tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. There's no party in the morning. It's an evening. Always evening. Why evening? Because that is when you are not your full self. Something, you loosen up, as it were. First thing in the morning is too sacred to do all this. It doesn't come naturally to you. That's why world over, it is dinner and dance. It is never breakfast and dance. Nowhere in the world. Why is that? Sattvic time, impossible. It's not possible. So you can add your own examples, you can do your own research, but you will find that sattva, in the morning you will find people are not inclined to be indulgent. It's only in the evening the indulgences start. So, coming back, first thing when you pick up this knowledge and study, you are promoting sattva. And when you cut the evening, sleep early, whatever your activities are, because there's so many distractions now. The television is there and people are there, and what's that, WhatsApp goes on, and Twitter, I don't know what all in the evening. So you're staying up and watching and catching up with friends. When are you going to sleep? So that is another form of tamasic activity. For what are you doing all that? Is it going to help you in any way? Are you going to be a better human? Is your knowledge better? It's just an indulgence. It's just an entertainment. That's all it is. So if you cut that time and place it in the morning, pick up these values, you will be developing sattva. And that is the quality you need to pursue this path, seek and reach the truth. So here is a person, that's what we are studying, who has understood these values and is pursuing these values and is well on the path to developing that state of renunciation which comes from being established in the higher values of life. Verse 22.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः.
For the enjoyments that are born of contacts are only wombs of sorrow. They have a beginning and an end. O Kaunteya, O Arjuna, the wise one does not rejoice in them. So with this background that we just had, you must understand now that what is being promoted is the introvert activities. The other, the bogi, is one who's interested in extrovert activities, meaning contacting the world. So he says, Buddha, the wise, understand that these contact-born pleasures or joys that you have by contacting the world. Remember we said you contact the world, what do you get? Objects, emotions and thoughts from the world. So when you contact the world and derive happiness, and people do find happiness, but he says these are wombs of sorrow. You don't see the sorrow. A womb is that which does not reveal the child. Similarly, these contact-born enjoyments, samsparshajaha bhogaha, what are they? Contact-born pleasures. Dukkhayonayaha. Wombs of sorrow. You will not see it. That's the problem. You cannot see it. Much later do you realize. It's too late, too late. Like two men were talking, and one said, you know, my wife's an angel. Other fellow said, you're lucky. Mine is still alive. Not yet become an angel. So, much, much later. And another fellow, these are all conversations the men have. So one fellow says, I've been unlucky with both my wives. He's had two wives. So first one left me, second one is not leaving me. He wants her to leave, he's not leaving. So, then what made you get into that relationship? Pleasure. In the beginning, it is pleasure. And you are sold. But much later, the same person doesn't give the same pleasure. It's called the law of diminishing value. The first time you contact an object, it gives you X amount of pleasure. So you believe it's going to give you the same pleasure. You keep on contacting the same objects. But what is happening is the object does not give the same pleasure because of your repeated contact. The pleasure content reduces until it comes to a zero. That's what he's saying, wombs of sorrow. Not only is there no pleasure, now there is displeasure. There is discomfort, unhappiness. And yet you don't understand that objects or beings of the world, the pleasures that you get out of that, has a beginning and an end. It cannot be permanent. I've already explained this. I'm only revising. Why is it so? Because two things are changing. One is your mind. Your mind itself is changing. The way you felt before is not the way you're feeling now. How come? Mind is subject to change. And the object that you are contacting is also subject to change. So in this flux of change, how can you get the same pleasure? It's not possible. So he says the wise understand it. Now this does not mean that you cut off relationship with the world. You don't get along with your own family members. Why? You say, what is the point in living with you? You're going to give me sorrow. It's not to be taken in a pessimistic way or a fatalistic way. It is to be objective and realistic. So you must understand that people will not remain the same simply because you don't remain the same. See, you yourself are changing, you're okay with that. But how can you not accept another's change that you're not able to accept? The wise do not rejoice in them, meaning they are not dependent. That's the difference. I'll give you a story. It should be able to give you clarity what this verse is saying. Otherwise, you get it wrong. Imagine a river is in flood, and a man is swept away by the waters. He's going to drown. So as he is being swept away by the waters, he has to save himself. He holds on to something that he finds. It's the branch of a tree, which is on the banks of the river. So somehow he holds it, saves himself. This is the condition of the man. He's still, the water, the torrential flow is still keeping him in the water, but he's holding on to the branch. If he lets go the branch, he will drown. He will die. This is the condition of the man. On the same tree, the other side, on the same branch, is a bird sitting. Do you get the picture? There is this branch. In fact, the tree is old. It's a very old tree, and the branch is bending precariously. But something saved him. It saved him. So the man is holding on to the branch. The bird is sitting on the same branch, the other side, singing. This man holding on to the branch is sinking. Two different experiences. Not only that, if the branch were to break, the man would perish. If the branch were to break, the bird will simply flap its wings and fly away. Two different states. What is the difference? The man is dependent on the branch. Both are using the same branch, but one is completely dependent on something that cannot be reliable, that is not reliable. The other entity is using the branch as long as it is there, but the moment anything goes wrong, it simply takes to its wings and flies away. It is the wings of knowledge that will help you function in this world without being affected. If you don't have the wings of knowledge, then you will share the fate of the man that's holding on to the branch, and you will perish. So all that he's saying is, the wise understand this, and they pick up knowledge. Wise meaning those who have got wisdom, those who have assimilated the knowledge. They do not depend upon the world. So both live in the world. One is dependent, one is not. That is the difference.
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः.
He who is able to withstand even here, before liberation from the body, the force arising from desire and anger, he is a yogi, he is a happy person. So, in the earlier verse, he says, you don't rejoice. The wise people do not rejoice in this extroverted activity. They are not dependent. They understand everything has a beginning and end. So they are realistic. They are objective. And they are living in the world with the right attitude. Now he's suggesting how to do it. What is the method? How do you go about contacting the world? So he says, yaha. Remember earlier, in the beginning, we've been talking about how the Bhagavad Gita is a universal text. It is not a text of the Hindus. It's not talking about any ism. The Bhagavad Gita gives us scientific methods by which you can live your life in this world, and at the same time, those who are interested in seeking the ultimate truth, it gives you the path. So it serves you two ways, to live in this world and to find that ultimate truth. Therefore, it doesn't ask you, who are you? Are you an Indian or an American or a Japanese, African? Do you follow Hindu philosophy? Do you follow Western philosophy? You can follow whoever you want. You can be following any religion, caste, creed, community, race, religion. All these things don't matter. It uses a word, yaha. Yaha means whoever you be, whoever he be, he who. Yaha. Throughout the Gita, you will see this word yaha. Yaha means he who. You're not asked, what is your background? Nothing asked. You follow this, you get it. That's all. And as simple as that. So what is it? He who is able to withstand here. Sodum shaknoti. You are able to withstand what? Iha eva, even here. Even here means now. You can practice it now. You don't have to become a perfect human. Even now. What do you practice? That force. Vegam. Vegam that comes from kama krodha. Now, krodha literally means anger. So, desire, the moment you are a victim of desire, see, you direct the desire. Desire ought not to direct you. When we say that, you may like to do certain things. You may dislike to do certain things. Too bad. But you have to ask that question, is it the right thing for me to do? Whether I like it or not. You may like it, you may not like it. But whatever your duties and obligations are, you ought to fulfill. Then you are not a victim of desire. So, if you are a victim of desire, if the desire is prompting you to act, not your duty and obligation, not what you ought to do, then you will come under the influence of the modifications of desire. Meaning, you will be a victim of anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, passion, and there are a whole lot of modifications. Many. He just put anger to represent all sorts of negative experiences and feelings you will have if you succumb to desire. See, it's something like this. Imagine a flight of stairs and a rubber ball that you had in your hand slipped So if it slipped from your hand, you got to quickly hold it. You get it back. But if you're not alert and you're not quick to understand it slipped out, it will go to step 2. So you got to reach out and hold it. But if you're not that alert and don't hold it in step 2, it will go to step 6. It's not that the ball will go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's not how it goes. In geometric progression. So if you don't hold it, first of all, as it slips out of you, you got to hold it. If you don't do it, it will go to step 2. A little far, little tough. And if you're athletic, even if it goes to step 6, you can hold it. You stretch out and jump and hold. But if you miss step 6, it will go to 15, 30, it's gone, finished. You lose it. What? Your peace of mind. So the first time a thought comes, you've got to hold it. It's like a bacteria entering your system. If you don't correct it there, it will start multiplying, and before you know, you have fever. A bacterium, when it enters you, it starts multiplying, and there is so much of bacteria that you succumb, and you say, I've got fever. How did it all start? One tiny, invisible bacterium gets into your system unnoticed. And if you're not careful, it can bring you down. So similarly with this desire, here is a person who's able to withstand even before liberation. You don't have to go very far. If you are able to practice these disciplines, the study itself will make you conscious, will make you alert. So what is that alertness? Study, reflection of these values. That will help you hold the desire and not let it slip out of you. Such a person will be able to withstand the force. Because once you get into the mainstream, you are swept away by your desires. So here is a person who's able to withstand it. Such a yogi. Yogi because he's interested in self-development. Such a person is always happy.
योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामः तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामः तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति.
He who is happy within, who rejoices within, who is illumined within, that yogi alone, becoming Brahman, gains the bliss of Brahman. You got to follow the thought flow. We talked about if you start disciplining yourself with the knowledge. You need knowledge. See, with a little bit of knowledge, you have the strength to hold your desires. Otherwise, why would you hold the desires? You get a desire, you act on it. In the Bible, it says, he that findeth his life shall lose it. He that findeth his life shall lose it. He that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Now, what is that findeth his life? If you indulge in the world, in this world of things and beings, so attractive, if you find it your life there, you shall lose the peace within. Lose it, that ultimate state of perfection, that you will lose. But he that loseth his life, see, loseth his life doesn't mean you're miserable. It just means that you are not carried away by the attractions that the world offers you. So you're losing that, as it were. Just as a sportsman, you can say, is losing his life for his sport. Meaning he is not partying, he is not drinking, he is not smoking, he is not a victim of these attractions. And that is why he findeth the spot. Proficiency, excellency in the spot. So even in a relative sense, you have to be sacrificial. You, even a businessman. See, all of us, we have a certain level of achievement depending on the amount we have sacrificed. If you're not prepared to serve, if you're not prepared to sacrifice, you can't achieve anything. So there is losing something to gain something. In fact, this great Swami Ramtirtha, he puts it in a different way. He says, the way to gain anything is to lose it. I know we are going very far, but I'll try and explain that. So first of all, let's finish this. So he says, he that findeth his life, meaning a life of indulgence. If that's the way you're going to live, then you lose it. Lose the highest. He that loseth his life is not indulging in life, but he's prepared to serve and sacrifice and evolve. For my sake. For my sake means, remember we've been saying every master uses that singular, first person singular. My means the truth. For the sake of the reality, for the sake of the truth, if you are prepared to serve and sacrifice, then you shall find it. So now, Swami Ramtirtha, sometimes we have to keep quiet, but in inspiration we keep on talking, then we don't complete the verse. So anyway, certain ideas you need, it might inspire you. He says, the way to gain anything is to lose it. Because he talks about the service and sacrifice. See, in physics, there's a law. You know, an object, I don't have an object in my hand, but imagine if I had a red ball in my hand. It's an object. Do you know why the object appears red? It's physics. Why does an object appear red? It absorbs all other Vibgoric colors. What are the Vibgoric colors? Violet, indigo, blue, yellow, green, orange, red. Okay. So these are the Vibgoric colors, 7 Vibgoric colors. Of them, it absorbs 6. Only red it doesn't absorb, and it appears red. This is physics. This is not philosophy. So what he's trying to say is, what you give away, what you sacrifice, that is what you'll have. That is what he means when he says the way to gain anything is to lose it. So similarly here, if you want to achieve anything in life, you've got to learn to serve and sacrifice. So what is it? What do you have to sacrifice? In fact, there is no real sacrifice. Because what you're giving up is the negative. What you get is positive. So really there is no sacrifice. It is a sensible way of living. So he says such a person, that yogi alone, he becomes Brahman, who lives this life of service and sacrifice and evolves. He says, he is anta sukhaha, he is happy within. Anta ramaha, rejoicing. Anta jyotihi, illumined. He has knowledge of the highest. These are the ways by which you gain the highest bliss of Brahman. Brahman, again, is synonymous with truth, reality, self, God principle, whatever word you want to use. They're all synonyms. He who is happy within, who rejoices within, who is illumined within, that yogi alone, becoming Brahman, gains the bliss of Brahman.
लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः.
So the previous verse, he talked about the sadhana. Sadhana is practice for an advanced human, because he's already happy within, rejoicing within, illumined within. So he's fairly established in sadhana. Sadhana means spiritual practices, spiritual disciplines. But for those who are not that advanced, what do? Sages attain the bliss of Brahman, whose sins have been destroyed, whose dualities are destroyed, who are self-controlled, who revel in the welfare of all beings. So this is method 2. Method 1 is for an advanced seeker. Method 2, he gives disciplines for the less evolved. So he is attending to the range of people. See, some are just starting the journey, some are well established in the journey. He is catering to both. So if you find that difficult, how can I find peace within myself? I'm not able to do that because you're not yet established. Then what do? So he says here, see, the world has endless pairs of opposites, right, wrong, good, bad. This is what we are facing throughout our lives. Now, if you're not prepared, you are a victim of these dvandvas. Dvandvas, pairs of opposites. See, if you've seen a picture of Lord Ganesha, you know what is unique in that picture? Apart from the fact that he has an elephant head and a large belly and all the rest of it, one feature. It looks incomplete. Huh? One tusk is broken. One is whole. There are two tusks for an elephant. One is broken. I don't know if anybody has thought, why is a tusk? In fact, an American couple had come to our academy many years ago, and they had bought near Taj Mahal, hotel in Bombay. There are all these shops. They have beautiful statues. So they picked up a statue of Lord Ganesha because they thought it was so cute. Yes, they picked it up. Then so Swamiji, they came and met Swamiji, and Swamiji, in course of conversation, for whatever reason, he was giving the significance. I mentioned to you yesterday, there's a book, The Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals. See, the questions come from youngsters. Why does Ganesha have an elephant head? Why not giraffe's head? Now, what are you going to answer? Bhagwan pa, apdiella pesapadad. That's all you can say. And tell him to shut up, because you don't know the answer. So the youngsters, they are so innocent. They are so straightforward. They are curious. They want to know, why elephant head? There is a story. Parvati Ma was having a bath and she told the child to stand. All sorts of things. You're going to give stories. Grandmother, there are stories. But why elephant? If he persists, why elephant head? You won't know what to say. So there's a deep significance, which I'm not going into. But one of the points, when Swamiji was trying to explain the point where the tusk is broken, they started looking at each other. So Swamiji stopped. Is there a problem? Has something happened? He says, no, we've made a huge mistake. So what mistake? See, we bought this statue of Ganesha, and when we went back to the hotel room, we saw the tusk broken. See, we didn't bargain with that fellow. We knew he was charging us more. But when we went to the room, we found the tusk broken. We went back to the fellow and said, finished him off. Said, did we argue with you? Did we bargain with you? We gave you the price and you're giving us a broken statue? So that fellow also scratching the head because he knows all the statues, it's broken. What do I do? But he didn't want to argue with this fellow. So he plucked a good whole tusk and put it and gave it to them. Now they're saying, without the broken tusk, it has no meaning. So they went back to the fellow and said, see, we want the broken tusk back. He said, these Americans, how difficult they are. They're all the time demanding. When I gave the broken one, they're arguing. Now I gave the full one, they're arguing. Never satisfied these fellows. But he's a businessman. So finally he put the broken tusk and then they felt relieved. Because what it means is all of us are caught between the pairs of opposites. But here is a person who has gone beyond dvandva atita. He is not affected by the pairs of opposites. Heat, cold, joy, sorrow, honor, dishonor. He's way beyond it. So sages attain the bliss of Brahman, whose sins means mental agitations, are destroyed, whose dualities are destroyed. He's not a victim of dualities, who are self-controlled. It's a mental discipline where the intellect has a complete control over the mind and the mind controls the body. So it's self-control. Such people revel. See, having gone through these disciplines, what is the test that you are on the right path? You've got to test yourself. What is the yardstick of self-development? He said, you revel in the welfare of all beings. There's no question of hatred or jealousy or greed or anger. Nothing. Because you become one with all. Yes, another person is an angry person or a jealous person. There could be all sorts of persons in the world. But you refuse to meet that aspect of him. Why do you contact the negative aspect and suffer? Everybody in an admixture of right and wrong, good and bad. Nobody is wholly good. Nobody is wholly bad. So you refuse to contact the negative part. You keep in touch with the positive aspects. You will not have a problem. This is sadhana. And if you think it is difficult to do it, how do you function with animals? There are range of animals. You have a tiger that is ferocious. You have a snake that is poisonous. And you have a giraffe, you have an elephant, you have a lamb. These are all meek and mild animals. So you have such a range. Now when you see a tiger, you know it's dangerous, it's ferocious, but you adore its ferocity, don't you? You don't say, we must destroy all the tigers in the world. In fact, they are protecting the tiger. But will you have a tiger in your vicinity? Nowhere. You will not go anywhere near it. As long as it's far, doesn't matter. But what a majestic animal. Na power. You will praise the animal for its power, for its ferocity. You don't get angry because it's ferocious. Similarly, there is a snake, a poisonous snake. One drop of poison from a cobra is enough to destroy 20 people, kill 20 people. That is the potency of its venom. But you adore its venom. What a creature, what a creature. You say that. Now, you don't seem to have problems with your relationship with animals. Though you know, they could be ferocious, they could be poisonous, they could destroy you. You know that. Yet you don't have a problem. But when it comes to humans, you have a problem. You may be going home to a tigress waiting for you. Bhagavad Gita, acha, 4 days. Now you come back. You may be waiting for that. You have to face it. Now, that could give you tension. Or the person, you try to talk good, but only poison comes out. Negative things come out. There could be a character of a person, only venom. Even if you give milk, venom only will come out. That is the nature of that person. Now what can that person do? That person is helpless. You have to learn to deal with that venom, understanding that person is helpless. But you will touch the venom, you will hurt yourself, and you will suffer. This is the absurdity going on. So when he says you revel in the welfare of all beings, it means you can get along happily with one and all, knowing their differences. You can't get over your weaknesses. How do you expect another to get over? So you got to take care of your evolution and identify with one and all, because each one is some level of that progression. Could be at the beginning, he could be the other end, but what can we do? They have to take care of their lives. So you're able to revel in the welfare of all beings.
कामक्रोधवियुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम् कामक्रोधवियुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम्.
For those who are freed from desire and anger, who are self-controlled, who have subdued their mind completely, who have realized the self, the bliss of Brahman resides in them. So if you have followed method 24, that is for advanced, and if you are less evolved, you follow 25. If you have followed the process, whatever is recommended, then he says, you become free from kama and krodha. Remember, we talked about everyone is a bundle of desires. So you have this opportunity called life to exhaust your desires. That is why you're given this opportunity. But most people, without this knowledge, without this understanding, what would you naturally do? You will go on fulfilling desires. And you may turn around and ask, what's wrong with that? We've got desires, we've got an opportunity, why not fulfill? The problem with fulfilling desires is, without this knowledge, is the more you fulfill them, the more desires you will generate, and you will need to constantly fulfill desires. And like Shankara says, even if you reach a grand old age, you will still be a victim of desires. And then you get into the cycle of birth and death, only trying to fulfill desires. It's meaningless. But we don't understand how many janmas have we already spent fulfilling desires, and what are we doing now? Fulfilling desires. What will happen in the future? Same thing. Some of us have got to stop and understand the value of life. So if you do that, for those who are freed from desire and its modifications, represented by one modification, anger, who are self-controlled, yatinam, who have subdued their mind, yatachetasam. So there is relative control of the mind, meaning your desires, your emotions are under control of the intellect. And if it is abhitaha, complete control of the mind, you have reached that final gateway. You qualify to meditate. That's the final state. And then through meditation, who have realized the self. You have merged with the self. You have become the self. In such people, the bliss of Brahman resides in them. Such people enjoy a state of eternal bliss. So when you get back, remember the coil spring? If you keep on going in the same direction, you're more and more peaceful. You are going closer and closer to the self in you, the God principle in you. And when you have got back to your original state, that state is permanent bliss and peace. That's what he's indicating here. And then in the two following verses, 27 and 28, he talks about meditation. Because now you're fully qualified. And then you can take on to the seat of meditation.
स्पर्शान् कृत्वा बहिर्बाह्यान् चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिः मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधः यः सदा मुक्त एव सः.
So in 27, he says, shutting out external contacts and fixing the gaze as though between the eyebrows, equalizing the flow of incoming and outgoing breaths in the nostrils. In 28, having the senses, mind, and intellect controlled, with liberation as goal, the sage free from desire, anger, fear, is verily liberated forever. See, first of all, take 28. See what he's saying. What is the prerequisite? Remember on the first day I said, we are not criticizing here in this classroom. There is only analysis, intellectual analysis. Now we are only presenting the facts that are given out in the Bhagavad Gita. You come to your own conclusions. That is your life. But you must know the facts. Any number of times he has repeated, you have to practice control. Without control, you cannot sit in the seat of meditation. Try. So if you take the previous verse, which you don't have to show, he's saying you've got to shut out external contacts and fixing the gaze between the brows and equalizing inflowing and outgoing breaths in the nostrils. You're sitting in the perfect state of meditation. And then what do? You start chanting. Om, 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 Hom, Hom. What happened in the house? I left the keys. No, you don't shake your head. I'm only exaggerating. But the mind has gone. Where? To home. Even as I'm talking, it's gone home. You can't keep the thought going. It once, twice, thrice you repeat. Then it's gone. Where does it go? Wherever your immediate desires are, your concerns are, it'll go. And then again it goes for a chakkar and comes back. Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari. That fellow, he promised to give that money. He's not given. I must go back and put one knot. And then continue. This is not meditation, going in, going out, coming out. That's not the way. If you focus on single, that's what he's saying, cutting out all contact, focusing on that thought is not possible unless, verse 28, having the senses, mind, intellect completely under control. And for what? What are you meditating? Not to reduce stress, blood pressure, blood sugar. They say for meditation, if you do all that, skin problem disease will go. For that you sit and meditate. He said, no, with liberation as goal. If that is your goal, then it makes sense to meditate. Otherwise, they are not truly meditating. So that is the ultimate goal. The sage is one who is fully established in the discipline, free from, again he says, free from desire, fear, anger. Because these are the modifications. So you are not a victim of your desire, fear and anger. Then a person is verily liberated. So it's not, in fact they say, yad gatva nanivartante. Once you get to that state, you don't return. You don't fall short. It's like refinement. When you become a refinement, you can't come down to being uncouth, unrefined. If you can, then you were never refined in the first place. So refinement means you can never return to an unrefined state. That is the meaning of refinement. So similarly, this is the highest refinement, highest achievement. Once you get there, it is forever. So in the 27th verse, he describes the process. Now we don't need to get into the details, but for what it's worth, he says, shutting out external contacts, meaning there is a mental withdrawal. When he says shutting off external contacts, you are in the world, but in the seat of meditation, there is no preoccupation with the world. The mind is withdrawn from all these disturbances. And then he says, chakshuhu cha eva antare bruvoho. The gaze is between the brows. Now, if you literally do it after meditation, you'll come out with a headache. Imagine looking at the in between the brows. You'll get a headache. So don't try all that. People do that. And then they say there's a flash of light coming and something coming. You need to see an optician if that happens. Or a psychiatrist, one of the two. So none of these things, these are all symbolic. What he means is, when you're fixing the gaze between the brows, it means there is a bhavana of devotion. You're devoted to the higher, and then equalizing the breathing means it is a reflection of your mind. So when you're angry, you're breathing very hard, and how can you be equanimous? Or if you're jogging, you're breathing very hard. You can't be equanimous. The mind can't be equanimous. You have to cool down. So breathing is equalized, meaning your mind is equanimous. So everything is prepared to take that final plunge. And once you sit in that seat, fully deserving it, then it's a question of time. He says, you're verily liberated forever.
भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति.
Having known me as the enjoyer of sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all worlds, the friend of all beings, he attains peace. So who attains shantim richati? Who attains eternal peace? That's what we just discussed. See, that getting back, coil spring, getting back to your original state is a state of peace and bliss. I've already told you this, that the original state of your body is health. The original state of your mind is bliss. So if you are not experiencing bliss, cheer, joy, happiness, you're not in your original state. So here is a method by which you gain permanent peace, permanent bliss. Because what you would say naturally is, I'm happy by God's grace. I'm happy. I'm joyful. I'm cheerful. But all your happiness has a shelf life. Why? As long as things are going according to what you want, your family is good, your business is good, money is coming, everything is all right, you're not paying too much tax, the government is good, everything is good, then you're happy. But the moment something happens, any change, your happiness goes. So this happiness that people experience in the world is of a temporary nature. Here we are talking about permanent bliss, permanent peace. And that can come only when you go through all the disciplines. And even if you don't hit the final mark, you are far, far better than where you are. So even for that sake, you should do it. So he says, having known me, meaning having reached the highest, as the enjoyer of sacrifices. How do you get there? Yajnaha, service and sacrifice, we've already covered that. And tapaha. Tapaha, austerity, means it is conserving your energies and directing it to something higher. As we said in the factory, you make sure the raw material is good. You make sure the machinery is of good quality. Then you quality control your actions. Make sure your actions are service and sacrifice oriented. Then if you do all this, that is tapaha. So yajna tapaha. And then he says, the supreme Lord of all worlds, that which pervades everything. Worlds, meaning you can say it pervades the material world, physical world, emotional world, intellectual world. How do we say that? What is it that makes your body function? What is it that makes your mind function? What is it that makes your intellect function? It is the Lord of these worlds. Or you could take waking, dream, deep sleep. See, at the moment you say, I am awake. When you fall asleep into the dream, you say, I am the dreamer. Now you say, I am the waker. In the dream, you say, I am the dreamer. In deep sleep, you say, I am the deep sleeper. Now, the waker is not the dreamer, is not the deep sleeper, but I am continues. That pervades it all. I am seeing, I am hearing is different from. See, seeing is different from hearing, is different from smelling, is different from tasting, different from touching. But I am, same. Then if you go into the emotional world, I am feeling sorrow, I am feeling joy, I am feeling pleasure, I am feeling pain. The experiences are all different. But I am continues. It's the same. So that I am, he says, is the Lord of all worlds. And friend, suhridam. Suhridam, because a friend gives comfort, solace, happiness. Enemy gives discomfort. The self in you is comforting. It gives you peace. It gives you satisfaction. Like a friend. Such a person who has found this in him attains peace. This is the process, that is the goal, and each human being has the capacity to find that peace and happiness within oneself. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamodhyayaha. When we complete a text, we have the humility to believe we have not finished our study, but from this day we shall dedicate ourselves to the study of this great literature. That attitude, we will read the first verse of the chapter together, please. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Cha Shamsasi Yashreya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam. Thank you very much. If you will all be seated, I believe there is some prasad to be distributed. Please collect it before you leave.